welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happens in YouTube Atheist Community and whatever, the chatters stuff. Anyway, yeah, yeah, I'm just kind of in an mood. Yeah, I don't really, the whole community thing doesn't look all that brilliant an idea. But the atheist community hasn't been the atheist community for a few years either. There's no cohesion, or there's nothing. There's nothing. It's not even, it doesn't really exist. So it's just a bunch of these different perspectives arguing about reality. And I'd argue that most of them are just arguing psychology and not really arguing about anything real or factual or significant in that sense. Logical. Even though they have names like logic in their names. No, not even close. Some asshole LUCID something or other. That Florida thinks is somehow interesting. I guess I'll do a response video to his critique of Benatar, which isn't really a critique of Benatar. It's a critique of people who think the asymmetry is a rational argument. He hasn't even read the book, and he's just critiquing the people who suggest the argument is good and just putting them in a classification and saying, oh, they're too dark or they're too depressive. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's not a happy truth. The truth isn't a great story, okay? You think evolution's a great story? Then you're stupid. You're ignorant. You're a fool. You're a sadist. If you really think evolution's a good story, you have to be a sadist. I mean, really. I mean, when you just think of all the harm, all the suffering, the attrition rates alone, no anesthesia. I mean, come on. You could even just go with the human story. Cholera, the Black Plague. I mean, just horrible war. I mean, just horrible. Slow, horrible death. You're a sadist. I mean, if the truth doesn't get you down, okay, there's no God fairy tale happily ever after in heaven. It's a sad truth, but there isn't. And anybody who's feeling good about that is a psychopath, like this idiot. Yeah, I haven't responded on kind of odd because it's just psychology videos, and one of them, it was just so telling. Where he's describing this necessity that we all just accept it the way it is. And he was using rhetoric, and it was just so, he was saying, expecting, if we have expectations that life be fair, or life not be cruel, or life not be stupidly random, that deserve might have something to do with it. And he's arguing as if we would expect these things. So it simply, his whole entire bullshit could be changed if he just changed the word to want. If we want fairness. Yeah, want's a pretty reasonable thing. Expecting would be idiotic. But wanting would be sensible. Wanting a fair game, a better game, is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. It's just so stupid. So anyway, yeah, so I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to try to make the argument simpler and simpler. I already have done that to some extent. I've written this shit down and gave people a simple little profile of reality. A simple little description of it. And so far I haven't gotten any rational response to that. But we'll go back to that. I'm going to do a physics video too. But just the fact that we have this, this simple mechanism, the universe, chemistry, replicating molecule, tools, sensation, consciousness, just a tool. I was reading a blog by the McCarpet girl, Christy, and Carrie, sorry. Whatever. She was talking like this hard problem thing is still a mystery or something, like, why are we conscious? We're conscious because this is what evolution used. But in a sense, we're conscious because the concept of urgency is very hard to synthesize in software. It's very hard to make something benign that can do this weighing thing that isn't a program in and of itself, that isn't some sort of, you know, simplistic if this, that kind of thing. And our brain is obviously doing something a little more complicated. It's throwing a baseball and then hitting the baseball. I mean, it's playing two roles here. And that's what our sensations are. And it adds I can't say confusion, I won't say chaos, but it adds, it combines a digital and an analog kind of a system together. And digital and analog really don't go together. And so that's the kind of thing it is. It's a little different than just some sort of straight program. The idea of urgency, conceptually, as a, you know, the fact that we are reacting to sensations that are so subtly fluctuating in their intensity, and we're reacting in some sort of mechanical way to that intensity and to the diversity of our interests. You know, we have more than one interest, many interests. Even making a video, it's like you have a desire to convey your point, and you're also expressing your emotions. You're also, you know, it's doing a lot of things that are being done in this one little mechanism. And so there's so much nuance to that in terms of the creation of the words and the expressions and the intensity and the emotion. And it's incredibly complex. So that's why it exists. We're adding a great deal of complexity to simple behavior. And if you look at nature, the only animals that have this, these neuron-able, there's no other thinking machines except these neuron-abled machines. There's nothing else doing thinking except the feeling things, any kind of fancy thinking. And there's a reason for that. Only the sophisticated tools. I mean, there's bugs that have all kinds of tools. You know, they have darty noses that puncture things, and they can, you know, they have all kinds of the wings. They can do all kinds of fancy things. But most of the organisms that do that, well, the fancy things like flying, are sentient. You know, they have a brain. They have neurology. And that's important, because it takes a subtlety. A powerful tool takes a subtlety. It's like the dangerous chainsaw kind of scenario. There's a subtlety to its use. It can't be used in a crude manner. It has to be used in a thoughtful manner, or you end up cutting your own leg off. And that's what an organism will do if you give it too good a weapon. It'll end up just killing each other with it, because it won't have the brains to use it with the subtlety required. So anyway, that's the argument from evolution, and it's an important argument. It's the substance of the argument. It is what we are. We're a byproduct of evolution. And, damn, this is so important. So anyway, so in the context of all this is these people who are claiming to be anti-natalists, and yet they have no rigid, realistic, reality-based philosophy. So they presume to tell other people what's right and wrong, and yet can't logically defend their definition of right and wrong. And then sometimes will explicitly tell you they don't believe right and wrong exists, and yet they will argue as if right and wrong exists, which just doesn't make any sense on its face, right? You can't argue for outcomes merely based on your emotions, unless you want to give license to everybody else to do the same thing, which is a kind of anarchy. So I almost put these people in the category of anarchists. These aren't people who want to reform or fix democracy or government. These aren't anti-natalists for a good reason. They're anti-natalists for the wrong reasons, and they won't be constructive. They won't do what's necessary when it's necessary to do it, to fix anything. because they really have no sincere passion. They just have some kind of silly bigotry, some silly emotional response that they concede is irrational and meritless. Why would you decide policy or advocate for a policy or advocate for behavior based on what you're conceding is an irrational emotion? I mean, it's on its face ludicrous. Alright. So, I've made the videos. You can, if you've seen the videos, you've seen the videos. I mean, these are just stupid arguments. So, Holidays made some sort of idiotic response. I haven't played it yet, but, beyond the title, I mean, you already can see what's coming. And you're saying, look, your argument is that you said it. You don't think suffering is intrinsically bad. You think that somehow there's some rational possibility that in and of itself, without any other redeeming function, you could just make a million suffering things, and that wouldn't be insipidly stupid in and of itself. You wouldn't be able to figure out that there's no other possibility but for that to be a mistake, for that to be a bad thing to do. Suffering is bad. It has all of the components to be called bad. It fits in the category. It's just stupid. So he's going to say suffering exists, but he's not going to... Suffering doesn't mean anything. He's taken the bad out of the word suffering. Then what the fuck is suffering then? It doesn't mean anything. There's no point in having a word describing suffering if suffering is not going to have included in its description badness. If it's not bad, there's no point in acknowledging its existence. So either, they go either way, right? Either they'll just pretend it doesn't exist, like his first argument was it's just a brain configuration, therefore it doesn't exist as anything. Or else they'll just take the bad out of it, which you can't do either, logically. There's no rational statement you can make, no logic, no fact to defend the theory that suffering is possibly a good thing. That in and of itself, creating a sentient organism in pain could be good. In and of itself. There's just no rational way you could think so. It's more irrational than believing in God to believe suffering might be good. We just can't figure that out. It's ludicrous. Anyway. So I eventually get around to that video, I suppose. So anyway, I'm just down on the whole. Like I said, these half-ass anti-natalists, and I don't want to blame Flyora, but it just seems like she's inviting it. I mean, she just seems like she wants some sort of people to talk to, and so she'll talk to any lunatic. And yeah, well, I'm just, these people aren't anti-natalists. They're not good for the cause, and you would think they are, but you'll find out when it comes to any kind of real policy to do anything about the real problem. They won't be showing up for that war. So anyway, I mean, it just makes you look silly to sit there and have affiliation or association with people who have no rational or logical justification for their advocacy. They're advocating from a position of non-reasonableness. So it's essentially the same thing. Like I said, you might as well just give license to religious assholes then, because they have a feeling. If you don't have to have evidence and logic, then there's just no fucking point. You have to have those things if you're going to advocate for something. What else is to say? I didn't want... Matt made a few videos here with all this mumbo-jumbo Gaia crapola, so no point. And Piro's a lunatic. I made the mistake of... Well, first he made this room last night, and I was going to make a room this afternoon. I just got stuck. I was cutting down a tree, and it just didn't go very well, so it took me much longer than I thought it would. Well, anyway, because I was going to make a room this afternoon when his room opens up, just to be a pain in the ass. Because he deserves it. He made some snarky thing like, Lonely Hearts Club for Anti-Natalists or something last night. Anti-Natalism Lonely Heart Club. Yeah, so I was thinking of having a room and just calling it Piro's a fucking insipid asswipe club. Just rag on Piro. But anyway, he opened his room with some sort of shit like, he said, yeah, well, my life has been a negative, but I'd do it again. I mean, I didn't die, my daughter did. Yeah, no big deal. I could do that over and over and over again. I could watch my daughter die thousands and millions of times over and over and over again. So yes, I would vote to do it over and over and over again. It's just... what? My life was a negative, but I would do it over again. There's no point in talking to people this fucking insane. I ran a deficit. I lost it at Vegas. I'll go back. I don't know. There's no way to even explain how stupid this is. I got dioxin poisoning at work and got cancer and died. Yeah, I'll do it again. It was great fun. Fuck you. But it's just, it's all this rainbow bullshit. So then the rest of the night they just sat there and, these people are just so... Skyzer, he talked to Skyzer last time. Fuck this. And then today, I can't remember who was in the room. Oh, Quintaka guy. The guy who found conference report too pornographic. Had to go rat on his employers, about his YouTube adventures. That's the guy he's having a conversation with. He's all fascinated. Well, anyway, so they ended up spending an hour talking about Detroit. Like, oh, wow, that's just too fucking interesting. Well, anyway, so that was just a colossal waste of time. I'm just not going to watch these chat roomy things. First off, there's just too much of it now. I mean, there was too little before, and now there's too much. It's just not, qualitatively, you just have to sit through too much shit to get to the good parts. So I apologize to all the people who had to deal with that with me for years. I really should have annotated the stuff, and pulled out the good stuff, I suppose. I guess I had a different purpose. I mean, I was doing it just for the engagement part, because I found some value in the arguing. But I haven't found value in it for quite a while now. So it was sort of inevitable that I was just going to say, fuck this shit, because it doesn't go anywhere. It's kind of a stupid way to frame the argument, especially when we have this medium where we can directly communicate through videos. And it's just people don't choose to maintain any kind of real debate in video exchanges. They're all pussies, mostly. And, what else did I want to say about that? Oh yeah, then I noticed the Logic Rolls of Dice posted a video, 10 minute, 15 minute, whatever it is. It's all text. Just like, and apparently it's text from like Whitehead or somebody. It's not even his text. Fuck this. So yeah, it's just all quite dismal. These people just don't have much use or quality in their arguments. I mean, outside of Glenos, and Derived Energy was a good arguer, but the problem with him was the whole, he was a nihilist too, which was a problem for me anyway. Personally, I couldn't, I still can't make any sense out of it. Yeah, it's impossible. It's just a silly position to take. A silly position to take to be an advocate for anything, and certainly silly from the perspective of making the argument from empathy. So at least Derived Energy wasn't making the argument from empathy. He didn't even mention animals or anything else in his argument in the beginning, because he didn't even relate the argument to the welfare of sentient creatures. But he wasn't really, strictly speaking, a nihilist either, though. Well, anyway, there's no point in going through that old shit. But, fundamentally, everybody's an asshole, except for Glenos. Yeah. And it's not just because he buys me cigarettes. But he actually does make logical arguments, which so few other people do, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, I really am I really do see there's certain rules to, you know, there's certain framework you can't really step outside of and me say we're on the same side, because it's just not, we're not on the same side then. If you think there's an is-ought gap, in my opinion, you have no business oughting. You have no business argue with anybody about what should be if you think there's a gap. If you don't know what should be, if you're not confident in what you know to be the truth, and you're not defending what you know to be the truth, I don't get you. I don't know why you aren't just, you know, go find a girl and fucking stuff. Why are you bothering with this shit? If you don't think there's anything real, of real value at stake, why don't you just fuck off? I don't get it. How can you possibly have a cause? It doesn't make any sense at all. Anyway. Yeah. But see, that's because this is all some sort of Gaia crap or whatever. I mean, these people who think the DNA molecule is giving them sensations that they can't overcome with understanding, like knowledge doesn't temper or change their emotional character. I think of course it does. And it certainly makes it controllable. Your emotions don't get out of control. You don't get too whacked out on an emotion if you know the truth of why you're having the emotion. I mean, informed context does change who you are. Knowledge changes you. It's truth. You're not a dumb monkey when you have knowledge and information. So this claim that you're somehow informed and yet your knowledge doesn't give you any power over your emotions, bullshit. So anyway, I mean, I am emotional because my knowledge is telling me this is serious business. This is a fucking crisis. This is horrifically horrible. This is horrible times the speed of light squared horrible. I should be even more panicked emotionally than I am. That's how bad things are. The amount of torture that will be wasted and pissed on because of these assholes is immense, and I should be hysterically distraught in contemplating that horror. And the fact that I'm not is kind of an indication how we aren't by nature very generous, and our emotions are tempered by our self-interest and selfishness. Because if I really developed a high sense of empathy, I would be distraught. Yeah. But I guess that's the point, though, is that it is, I guess I am, in a way. It's just that distraught has just turned into a desperate kind of sad depression. You know, because there's nothing else you can practically do with any emotion. Hate will get you nowhere. Anger, frustration. So all these emotions that you could have for no value. You know, beyond the fact that they do get you motivated to do something. So somebody brought that up too, about how I made the argument about how you need to be motivated in the context of this stupid, idiotic, inane argument. It was just such a stupid comment to make because, yeah, I'm motivated because I believe the suffering matters. I'm arguing, why would I be motivated if I didn't believe it? And these idiots can't even figure out what really is being argued here. So, anyway. But yeah, I just put these nihilists in the category of the anarchists. Okay, it's this little tiny minority of lunatics, truthers, anarchists, nihilists, just whack jobs who, you know, they're somehow invested in this notion, and they just can't They won't let it go. It's like a religion. It makes the world make sense to them somehow, but it's nonsense. It's just scapegoating, right? That's how anarchists are doing. They're just scapegoating and looking for a simple solution. Oh, we get rid of law and justice and notions of, organization. Somehow everything will be just fine. It's just a fairy tale. It has no merit whatsoever. Anyway, so I think that's enough of a video. So, I don't know what I don't know what my exact plans are. The comment sections do piss me off because it's just bullshit. It just hasn't evolved any. It's just all these personal attacks. It's wasting my time. No accurate quotes. No rational arguments. I mean, these arguments just don't mean anything to me. No one's saying anything that's meaningful or sensible or rational. You can't prove suffering's bad. I don't need to. Yeah. As a fact. I mean, but certainly I could prove it if you could take a videotape inside my head and you could see exactly what I'm logically seeing, then you'd see the proof, because the proof is obvious to me. I can't miss it. I can't find anything else but proof. In every sensation, it's quite obviously an event that has a value attached to it. Just obvious. Anyway, I argued the argument. So anyway, that's enough for video. I don't think there's anything else to say. But yeah, I don't know what this, I look at this thing and it just isn't working out. I mean, there's nobody rational to argue with, so I don't have anybody in this category that's reasonable anymore. And they're good guys. There's nobody making videos. And the only ones popping up now are all these stupid chat rooms that are 6 hours of drivel. So, it's not looking too good. There's nothing ordered here, so I have to have some sort of ordered debates or something. It's got to be something more disciplined, more progressive, just establish some premises and just realize that we can't establish a premise, so there's no conversation. So just understand in that sense. There's no point in me having conversations with people who don't know that sensations are important. And what people or animals feel is important, fundamentally. That's the currency of existence. You're exchanging your comfort for somebody else's discomfort. It's just a fact. Shit. So, yeah, nothing else to say. Yeah. Okay. So, until next time, we'll just see how things move along. See how they progress. And such. So forth and whatnot.